Hello everyone, welcome to the second devlog of turning episode 1 of my passion project, One of the Powerful, into a visual novel. Last week I talked to you all about how I embarked on this visual novel journey, and my progress of turning the opening scene from some loose storyboard sketches to fully rendered illustrations. This week we're going to work on, if not basically complete, the second scene, Greenbush Cafe, where we meet our protagonist Erin on our last day of work before moving away, and their co-worker, who will only appear in this scene. Unlike the first devlog, this week I wrote down some notes on what tasks I had completed each day, just to help me keep track of my progress. During this scene, the cafe just had a delivery, so there were quite a few boxes around. Originally I was going to draw them out, however since I had already created the 3D model of the interior and exterior of this cafe in Blender, I decided to create a quick 3D model of these delivery boxes, which I actually recorded the process of for those who may be interested in this sort of stuff. I am going to run you guys through how I make 3D models. We're going to add a cube, we're going to make a whole bunch of boxes, and this cube is just way too big, so we're going to scale it down. We're going to call this delivery box. So anyway, we're going to select these boxes, and we're going to press Ctrl A, and we're going to apply all the transforms so that UV unwrapping will work properly. Anyway, so now we're going to go to UV editing. Box is hidden from us in this view. Let's zoom into the cafe here. Into edge select mode. Mark seam. We're just going to mark a seam. Ah, there we go. See, that's why we have to do the Control A thing. Because the scale of it isn't exacted and the texture becomes all stretched. So we can see here it's in a color grid. Now we want that to be the same for our cube so we can see where our texture is going to go. I'm going to go here, add a new texture, click on base color, you're going to go image texture. There we go. So now we can see the color grid on this. And then when we're done, we can just export the texture and import it into Krita. Okay, and here is our texture in Krita. Normally I'd like to go to a -1 of selection, and I invert it. Guys ready? Hey, look! It's there. It's a little box. Oh my gosh, look! It's a little box. That's so cool. I'm so happy that worked. And all we have to do now, copy these guys and go here. Hey, look! Oh my gosh, that's so cool. With the boxes textured, I began drawing out the first CG of Scene 2, being Eren holding one of these boxes, which I used Blender for the 3D background and a base for the lighting, which I imported into Krita and began drawing Eren on top. I painted some additional lighting with a color dodge layer mode to really emphasize the lighting in the background, and I made Eren a lot darker to help them contrast this, with some orange lighting to help them fit into the scene. I hope the 3D backgrounds look digitally painted, as that is my goal with them, to basically replicate my 2D painting style, but in 3D, to help save some time on the project, as well as add some more detail and consistency to the backgrounds. For an example, I probably wouldn't have put so much thought into the delivery box design if I were to just paint it. I would have just painted a plain cardboard box, keeping it very simple to help speed up the process of the other backgrounds, so I could move on to the many other things I had to do. However, since I was texturing this, and this asset would be used for several shots, it allowed me to put some more thought into the design of the box. I even looked up delivery boxes for references and based my design on my research. Anyway, I was talking about boxes much more longer than I originally planned. I animated this shot in Blender and painted the sky in Krita. I spent some time last week modelling the exterior of Greenbush Cafe, but why do this if this is only going to appear in one scene? Doesn't modelling take forever? Honestly, not really, as these models are very simple due to the magic and detail coming through in the texturing. This took me like a day to create. Like, this bakery building looks super detailed, but it's just a plain rectangle. I took the original concept painting of this environment and plastered it onto the texture. Also, this won't be the last time you'll see this environment. Greenbush Cafe will come back into the story. It may be a long time from now, but it will return. I can also reuse assets I create. Like, this delivery van is the exact same model of the van I created for the opening scene. Only the textures are a little different. Same goes for any of the assets I create for this cafe. I can just reuse models for different environments and just retexture them to save some time in the long run. Anyways, for this pan shot, I also did some compositing such as color grading and lighting effects in both Krita and DaVinci Resolve to create the final result that you see now. If you're interested in my compositing process, you can check out the tutorial that I made, which you can find in the Shorts tab. For the last scene I worked on during the first day was these 3 frames of Eren, where they look zoned out, hear the TV, and then turn around to look at it. Originally I forgot to draw their hand in, which I fixed the following morning. There is also the news program playing, which at the time I hadn't designed, so we will come back to this very soon. The process of this shot is very similar to the first shot of Eren that I drew. It's just so satisfying seeing these storyboards finally being finalized, even if it's not fully animated like I originally intended. I've also been working on setting up an itch.io page for uploading the Crown the Family Head prototype, which is the first visual novel I created in Ren'py, that I originally edited together in DaVinci Resolve, as a few of you seemed interested in playing this for yourself. I created a custom icon for the project, however when I created a build for it, the Ren'py icon showed up instead of the custom one. The build also kept my autosaves from playtesting the visual novel, which I'm sure is of no use to anyone, so I need to figure out how to fix these 2 issues before I make the game public to play. The game will be very rough as it was just a prototype I coded together in a couple of days to test if I could indeed code visual novels. However, if there's anything I could improve on with the visual novel format, please feel free to let me know. I would like the final version of One of the Powerful Episode 1 and so forth to be a lot more polished than this prototype, so yeah, and that is my work for the first day. What did I do in the second day, you may ask? I drew Eren's hand on this shot as I forgot the previous day. My bad, and I wanted to work on the design of the news program on the TV. Since it's talking about a street being closed, I thought I would design just that. There are going to be a few scenes that will be out in the streets of Greenbush, so potentially making 3D model assets of houses is something that I'll need to put on my to-do list. Then I remembered this concept art where I designed what the average buildings in Greenbush would look like, and for this illustration I painted over a 3D model, which I found the source file of on my computer. So I fixed up some of the geometry such as this wall to make it easier to texture, and eventually I turned these geometric shapes from this to this, which took me the majority of the time I had to work on the project for the second day. I used these houses I had now textured and created a background set for the news program, which I rendered and added some overpainting in Krita. This news broadcast was finally complete, and I had some building assets I can now reuse. I rewrote some of the code for the co-worker's introduction, just to make the scene flow a little better in my opinion, as well as adding some more descriptive text. For the last task of the third day, I drew out these 3 frames of Eren hesitating and then talking. I really like how the final render of these shots look, and Eren was a lot of fun to draw. I did not do much on the 4th day, mainly because I was starting out in some new medication for my migraines, and overall I was really fatigued. However, I did draw this one scene of the co-worker slamming one of the delivery boxes on the counter. I do not like this shot, in particular the hands. However, can I live with it? I guess so. Especially since this shot is only there for like a few seconds. If it's bothering me so badly and I have the time, then I will redraw it. However, I'm trying to defeat my perfectionism and not everything can be perfect, so I just have to move on. On the 5th and final day of the second devlog, I was much more productive. I drew this scene of the co-worker looking up at the TV. The lighting is a lot of fun and I quite like her design. I'm sad she only appears for this one scene. I updated this shot I drew a while back of Erin and the co-worker, mainly re-rendering the background with the updated assets and lighting. I also colour graded the lighting to be more red and intense. I finalised the first character sprites, being the co-worker character. She only really has angry or annoyed expressions, with the exception of this one sprite. I drew her in Club Studio Paint due to the vector layers and the vector eraser, which can easily clean up overlapping lines with a single stroke. I kept these sprites in my cel-shaded animation style to keep things consistent in the art style, especially for animated cutscenes. I added a room lighting layer style and gradients for the co-worker in Krita, then imported each sprite into Ren'py, which I coded to fit the dialogue. The last asset I created for Grainbush Cafe was rendering a shot of the cafe for the sprite backgrounds, so you're not staring at this plain grey void. I also started drawing the line art of Erin's sprites, and I unfortunately haven't finished them yet. They have been really intimidating me, as they have to look great because Erin is like the main character. However, I shall chip away at their sprites as I develop the episode. Aside from that, Scene 2, Grainbush Cafe, is basically complete. I just have to draw Erin's cafe uniform sprites. The next scene is a flashback between Erin as a child and her dad Cal. This scene will include lots of CGs, more 3D assets, and even an animated cutscene that may or may not be a 360 camera pan shot and may or may not obliterate me over the course of the next few weeks. I highly doubt you'll see it fully animated by the next devlog, but don't worry, I'm sure you'll see it one day, and that is for future me to deal with. Thank you all so much for following along with this little development series so far. I really enjoyed reading everyone's comments during the first devlog, just seeing how excited you all are for the project by sharing support and advice. Again, thank you all so much. Reading your lovely comments always makes me smile. Anyways, until next time.